Good morning, everyone. I'm here to present my report about Jemaah Islamiyah. First, let us start in the history of Jemaah Islamiyah. History of the group. Jemaah Islamiyah is an Islamist extremist organization based in Indonesia. The group seeks to establish an Islamic caliphate extending across Southeast Asia. It originated in the late 1980s and was responsible for a number of high-profile attacks that mainly targeted Christians and Western interests throughout the 1990s and the early 2000s, leading to the 2002 Bali nightclub bombings that killed over 200 people. Following increased security efforts and internal splintering in the mid-2000s, Jemaah Islamiyah has become less active. The name Jemaah Islamiyah dates to the late 1970s, but experts aren't certain if the name referred to a formal organization or an informal gathering of like-minded Muslim radicals or a government label for Islamist opponents. Some experts say that Jemaah Islamiyah was formed by a handful of Indonesian extremists exiled in Malaysia in the late 1980s. In its early years, Jemaah Islamiyah renounced violence, but the group shifted tactics in the late 1990s because of suspected links with Al-Qaeda figures in Afghanistan. Now, let's talk about the ideology, belief, and the advocacy of the group. More than 200 million Muslims reside in Indonesia, representing 13% of the world's Muslim population. A large majority of this population accepts secular government, but an extreme faction does exist. Jemaah Islamiyah represents one extremist group seeking to create an Islamic state in Indonesia to implement Sharia. The group advocates the use of violence and terrorism to activate their goal. The doctrine of intolerance that Jemaah Islamiyah has adopted, coupled with their desire to overthrow the Indonesian government through violence, contrasts starkly with the version of Islam that most Indonesian Muslims observe. This group employ and adapt Wahhabi and Salafi ideologies. In fact, Wahhabi doctrine influenced the founders of Jemaah Islamiyah. The reason why Jemaah Islamiyah employ these ideologies is to justify violence and create a rift in the Muslim community, based on their specific understanding of Islam. Overall, Jemaah Islamiyah's belief and doctrines are mainly through violence, making their group most radical and militant. Now, let's talk about on how they recruit and judge their allies. Recruitment process. In the radicalization process, Jemaah Islamiyah leaders spread their message and recruited using a mixture of Islamic preaching, education, and social and economic outreach. Bashir preached that Muslims have a duty to engage in a violent struggle whenever governments block the implementation of Sharia. Jemaah Islamiyah's leaders realized that spreading their ideology through dawah, also known as proselytizing, without resorting to the use of force, would most likely fail. Therefore, Bashir's ideology and preaching repeatedly emphasized that the use of force to advantage the goals of Islam, including sacrificing oneself to promote or defend Islam. Jemaah Islamiyah's leaders, Abu Bakr Bashir and Abdullah Sungkar, promoted a version of the Islamic faith influenced by the groups like Al-Qaeda. Bashir preached that Muslims could not treat Islam as merely a religion. They must apply Islamic principles and values to all areas of human existence, including government. He also argued that countries with Muslim majorities should be governed by Sharia. These early leaders and members of Jemaah Islamiyah served in Afghanistan fighting the Soviets, exposing them to Muslims with different ideologies, including Wahhabism and Salafism. The influence of Wahhabi and Salafist ideologies created conditions that linked Jemaah Islamiyah to Islamist movements throughout the broader Middle East. The early leaders in Indonesia created Jemaah Islamiyah as a carbon copy of Al-Qaeda and followed Osama bin Laden's guidance to seek an Islamic caliphate for Southeast Asia. Now, who are the leaders and key persons of the group? The group was founded by Yemeni-born Indonesian clerics Abdullah Sungkar and Abu Bakr Ba'asyir, who had fled to Malaysia in the late 1980s to avoid prison sentences for their ties to Darul Islam. Among Southeast Asia's most wanted terrorists was Azhari Hussein and Mohammed Nordin. Top. Both Malaysian-born members of Jemaah Islamiyah. Hussein, a Britain-educated engineer and explosives expert. And top. A former accountant, are thought to have the most masterminds behind the August 2003 attack on the Marriott and September 2004 car bomb outside the Australian Embassy in Jakarta. Hassan was killed in a police raid in 2005, while Top is believed to be still in hiding. Until his arrest in 2003, Hambali played the most important leadership role in Jemaah Islamiyah. According to the US and intelligence officials, he was the group's operational chief, they say, and was closely involved in several terrorist plots. We are going to know the key events or controversies of the group. In the 1990s, Jemaah Islamiyah established a presence in the Philippines and Indonesia. By the mid-1990s, Sungkar had established the training camps in the Philippines, which led to a stronger relationship between Jemaah Islamiyah and the more Islamic Liberation Front. Meanwhile, conflict erupted between Christians and Muslims in Indonesia in 1999 and 2000s. During Indonesia's transition to democracy, Jemaah Islamiyah has been linked to dozens of deadly attacks across Indonesia and the Philippines and Malaysia from 1999 to 2002. ICG looked in particular. However, at the Christmas Eve bombings of December 2000, in part because they covered so much territory, more than 30 bombs were delivered to churches or priests in 11 Indonesian cities across 6 provinces, all were to explode around the same time. These are some prior attacks has Jemaah Islamiyah been linked to. The October 2005 suicide bombings in Bali that killed 20 people and injured 129 people. The September 2004 suicide car bombing outside the Australian Embassy in Jakarta that killed 3 people and left more than 100 wounded. The August 2003 car bombing of the JW Marriott Hotel in Jakarta that killed 12 people. The October 2002 bombing of a nightclub on the predominantly Hindu island of Bali that killed 202 people. Most of them are foreign tourists from Australia and elsewhere. Amrozi bin Nur Hassin, a 41-year-old mechanic from East Java, was convicted on August 8, 2003 for buying the vehicle used in the main explosion and buying and transporting of most of the chemicals used for the explosives. He was the first of the 33 suspects arrested for the bombings to be convicted. A December 2000 wave of church bombings in Indonesia that killed 18 people. A December 2000 series of bombings in Manila that killed 22 people. A 1995 plot to bomb 11 U.S. commercial airliners in Asia. That is all for my report. Thank you!